All right, today we are jumping into the final chapter of a true visionary, Nikola Tesla. But we're going to be looking at it through a really different lens, Vedic astrology. We're going to see if the stars can actually tell us the story of his final days. I mean, think about it. This is the guy who gave us alternating current, radio, and just countless other world-changing innovations. And yet, his story ends with him completely alone and in poverty. It's this huge paradox that has fascinated people for decades. So was his end just a sad random twist of faith? Or was it, in some cosmic sense, an ending that was kind of written into his very being from the start? Let's dive in. So the story wraps up right here, on a cold day in New York City, January 7th, 1943. Tesla was 86 years old. There was no dramatic event, no big public farewell, just the quiet, solitary end for a man who had literally electrified the world. This is the moment we're going to investigate. To really understand the end of his life, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. We need to look at the cosmic blueprint he was born with. In astrology, this is what's known as the natal chart. Now, the specific system we're using here is Jyotish. You might know it as Vedic astrology. The best way to think of it is like a map of your karmic patterns. The whole idea is that the position of the planets at the moment you're born doesn't just sketch out your personality, but it also outlines the major themes and even the chapters of your life. So what did Tesla's personal map look like? Let's just start with the absolute basics. His ascendant, which represents the physical body and your path in life, that was in Taurus. His sun, which is like the core engine of your vitality and self, was in Cancer. And his moon, which governs the mind and your emotional world, was in Libra. You can think of these as the three main pillars of his astrological identity. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. His chart shows a major influence from what Vedic astrologers call a Rahu-like archetype. This is basically a cosmic signature for the unconventional. It points directly to that eccentric, out-of-the-box genius that we all know Tesla to be, a mind that just operated on a different frequency. But, and this is a big but, this same archetype also hints at the price of that genius, a life of isolation and, really critically, fragile health in his later years. And then, of course, there's his mind, that engine that just never, ever stopped. Well, in his chart, the Sun, Venus, and Saturn are all sitting right together. That's a huge astrological flag for intense, relentless mental activity. Saturn's presence in that mix specifically points to a life dedicated to service, which, that was Tesla to a T. But that same powerhouse combination also suggests a major vulnerability, a serious strain on the nervous system, and a potentially fragile heart. And finally, let's take a look at his moon. In Vedic astrology, the chart's divided into 12 houses, and each one represents a different area of life. Well, Tesla's moon lands right in the 6th house, which is all about daily work, service, and health. This placement is a textbook indicator for mental stress that comes from constant work. It suggests his dedication came at a really deep personal cost, and it points directly to the solitude that so defined his final years. So that's the lifetime blueprint. But Vedic astrology isn't just a static picture. It also has a timing system, kind of like a karmic clock, that shows when different parts of that blueprint get switched on. So let's see what time it was for Tesla at the end of his life. Tesla was 86 when he passed away. Now, in the framework of Vedic astrology, that specific age falls within a very particular long-term planetary period, or you could call it a chapter of his life. This concept is called a Mahadasha, and just to be clear, this is not about your daily horoscope. We're talking about a major life chapter, lasting for many years, that's ruled by a specific planet. And during that whole time, the themes of that planet pretty much become the main story of your life. So which chapter was Tesla in at the end? He was deep into his Saturn Mahadasha. And if you know anything at all about astrology, you know that Saturn is the planet of consequence, of limits, and of finality. So what does the Saturn period actually represent? Well, this planet governs old age, chronic health issues, isolation, and a general depletion of your vital energy. It's a time when the karma of a life really comes to a head. Does that sound familiar? It's a perfect mirror of Tesla's actual circumstances in his last years: the poverty, the solitude, the failing health. The astrology aligns perfectly with the biography. Okay, so we've seen the long-term chapter he was in. Now let's zoom in on the exact cosmic weather report for the day he died. These are the short-term triggers that astrologers always look for. On January 7th, 1943, the cosmic weather was incredibly potent. You had 4 key planetary movements, or transits, that all converged at once. It was a perfect storm. First, you had Saturn hitting the point of his physical body.
Second, a point called Ketu, which is associated with endings and release, was passing right over his moon. Third, Mars activated his 12th house, the area of endings. And to top it all off, the sun was lighting up his 8th house, the house of death itself. It was a pileup of astrological triggers. To complete the picture, we really need to look closer at those astrological houses we mentioned. These are the specific arenas of life in the birth chart, and there are 3 of them that are absolutely critical for understanding health, illness, and the final transition.
These 3 key houses really tell the final part of the story. His 6th house of illness, right from the beginning, pointed to stress on his heart and nerves. His 8th house, which governs death, was energetically linked to his 12th house, which is a classic signature for a silent exit in solitude. And then that 12th house itself, representing endings and isolation, was heavily activated, symbolizing the quiet, ascetic passing that was so consistent with the life he led.
So we've looked at his natal promise, the major chapter of his life, and the specific triggers on his final day. Now let's bring it all together for the final karmic verdict.
And here is where all the pieces just click into place. The long-term Saturn period pointed to a final chapter of solitude. The short-term Ketu transit signaled the end of a karmic cycle. The activated 12th house suggested a peaceful death in isolation. And it all goes right back to the original promise in his birth chart, the destiny of a solitary, ascetic genius. Every single piece of astrological evidence points in the exact same direction.
So from this perspective, Tesla's death wasn't some kind of tragedy or a random accident. It really looks like the quiet, fitting, and natural conclusion to the very specific karmic path he was on, a life that was defined by incredible service, profound sacrifice, and an otherworldly genius. And that leaves us with a fascinating and kind of huge question to ponder. If a life's major themes and even its conclusion can be mapped out like this, what does that say about our own paths? Are we following a map that's already been written, or are we the ones drawing it as we go? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.